A group of Democrats in the Senate fighting back against a slew of new anti-abortion measures taking effect across the country. Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut is the lead sponsor of the Women's Health Protection Act. It's designed to stop states from preventing women access to abortion.
It is a response to this cascading onslaught of measures that have a false pretext. They have the guise of protecting women's health care when, in fact, they deny essential rights that women are guaranteed under the Constitution.
In the past 2 years, 26 states have passed more than 111 provisions placing restrictions on abortion. New York Magazine takes an in-depth look at the issue in a new piece called My Abortion. It's the cover story, and it profiles 26 women who share their intensely personal experiences. Joining me now is the author, Megan Winter, a contributor to New York Magazine. Dana Weinstein is featured in the piece. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Megan, you start out by laying out the parameters of what Roe v. Wade really said, that an abortion was a personal decision only in the first trimester, and then states can intervene on behalf of women's health. And so I guess in some ways these state laws maybe were inevitable. But so much of this political discussion is often painted in black or white. And I think what this article shows is how gray it really is. Still, all these years later, so many of these women are still conflicted.
Absolutely. Thank you for framing it that way. One of the important things to know is that the abortion debate is framed in black and white in much of our public discussion. But for most people, it's very nuanced. And people have abortions for a whole range of reasons, and they have a whole range of responses. And
were you surprised at how different the responses were, how broad?
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking with people, people's responses are so different. Someone could be unfazed, go to work the next day, not think about her abortion again or think of it very rarely. And some women grieve for months and
years even in some of these cases.
And a lot of those responses have to do with the factors involved. So abortion doesn't exist in a vacuum. A woman has an abortion because of so many different reasons. And, you know, I'm proud of the article, but one of the limitations is how short each of the women's stories were. And on one hand, that's a strength because you can see what a mosaic, so many different voices, so many different responses. But there's so much work left to do in terms of sharing women's voices and how complicated each of their situations are.
Dana, you are one of the women profiled in this cover story, and you said you used to wonder how anyone could possibly have a late-term abortion, but then you had one at 29 weeks. Tell us, if you will, about your story.
Sure. I was happily pregnant. My husband and I were really excited to be expanding our family. We had a 2.5-year-old son at the time, and our pregnancy proceeded perfectly normally, or so we had thought. And we went in for a routine sonogram at 28 weeks, and the ventricles in our baby's brain measured slightly elevated. We were sent on for advanced testing, where we had an MRI into my stomach to get a view of the baby's brain, and the images that came back were absolutely shocking and horrifying. Our baby was missing pieces of her brain. Parts of it were significantly malformed and just developed completely wrong. There were large pockets of empty space and gaping holes, and where mass tissue should have grown and been plentiful. And we didn't have to have experience with reading MRIs and pictures to see that something was gravely, gravely wrong.
How difficult has it been for you to be able to tell your story? Because I did think that one of the moving things about these stories of all the women is the disparity in the amount of support they got and the amount of fear that they felt.
Yes, I'm very lucky that I had a strong support system, but coming public and speaking about such personal details and such a devastating experience for us it's very, very difficult. But I feel strongly that no matter what I'm called, and I've been called some pretty horrific names, baby killer, murderer, going to hell. For me, this was such a personal choice. It was a decision that my husband and I made together. We felt that we were in a situation where there was no good choice, and we picked the one that we still feel very strongly was the very best for our unborn daughter to end her pain.
If there were commonalities in these stories, I thought there were two in particular that struck me. One was how horrible the healthcare providers could be in some cases, and how horrible protesters could be. Some stories about the doctors. The doctor acted like it was assembly line work. The doctor was grotesque. He whistled show tunes. The staff was very matter-of-fact, no kindness. Others talk about the protesters. There were protesters with awful, very graphic signs. I felt their judgment. Outside, protesters shouted, "You don't need birth control, you need self-control." One woman followed me and said in my ear, "You're never going to forget."
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to criticize people who provide abortions, because I think they're doing wonderful, important work, but women use the phrase assembly line, and I want to say 2/3 of the interviews. So that was really something that struck me as well.
That's shocking.
Yeah, it's upsetting, and I don't have much more to say about that, but it's true.
What do you want people to take away from these stories?
Yeah, I want people to take away from this that women are maligned no matter what they say about their abortion. The pro-life movement will say all kinds of hateful things if women voice their experiences. And sometimes the pro-choice movement also minimizes people's experiences, and women should be free to interpret and express their own experiences, and they have the authority to do that, and that shouldn't be undermined by political interests. And at the same time, our political conversation should be informed by women's actual experiences and the reality of what it's like to have an abortion and to have to face that choice. That's what I hope people take from this article.
Megan Winter, it's in New York Magazine. Dana Weinstein, thank you so much.
Dana.
We really appreciate you coming on and telling your story.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Both.